Welcome, Senator. How you doing?
Good morning, Mark. Good to be with you.
It is great to be with you, too. I got a couple of things. Got some campaign-related things, some budget bill-related things, some hard news items. But first, I know you join me in a big exhale of gratitude for law enforcement in bringing, and listen, there may still be packages, may still be tripwires, so everybody be very, very vigilant, but it appears we got him.
Well, that's exactly right. All of us across the state of Texas and millions of people across the country have been lifting up the people of Austin in our prayers as this terror has racked the city. And late last night, it appears that law enforcement finally stopped this individual. It was an incredible and very effective cooperative law enforcement effort. I spoke this week with the mayor of Austin and with the chief of police of Austin. They had their entire team combing the city, looking for leads. They brought in over 500 federal agents from the FBI and from the ATF. And those combined federal and state and local resources identified this man, and they were tailing him. And when he blew himself up, there are obviously still outstanding concerns, including, as you noted, whether there may still be other explosive bombs that he's placed throughout the city. So people still need to be very, very careful, and also whether he had an accomplice. At this point, it is not known whether he acted alone or he was acting with someone else, and so. That remains potentially dangerous, and then on top of that, we don't know yet the motive, and that I'm sure will come in the days ahead. We know this individual murdered 2 people, committed terrorism throughout the city, but we don't know what his motive was, what he was aiming to do, and so that we will learn as the investigation proceeds.
As this week proceeds, we have an omnibus spending bill to take a look at. I want to look at the nuts and bolts of that, but I just asked kind of an offhand question about the weather, because from a guy who knows a little thing or two about government shutdowns, government is shut down today because of the anticipation of snow, correct?
Well, that's right, and government shuts down every weekend as well. Although actually today, even though the snow is anticipated, it's snowing in D.C., but the city is not shut down at this point. The streets are clear, but we're going to see what plays out in Congress this week over the omnibus. The omnibus, unfortunately, the process that the omnibus is drafted under is a broken process. It is essentially drafted by Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, and the two of them drafted behind closed doors, and the remaining members of Congress have little to no input into what is in it. And so often you see horrible surprises that were snuck in the dead of night. And that's a big part of how you get a $21 trillion debt is a process that doesn't involve transparency, doesn't involve the public seeing what's going on, doesn't allow members to offer amendments to reduce spending, and so that unfortunately is a broken process right now.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I heard a audio clip from Chuck Schumer yesterday, day before, and he talked about the progress being made by the 4 leaders. And I thought, the 4 leaders, what about the other 98 senators and the other 433 members of the House? The other thing I heard Chuck Schumer say that gave me a little bit of a chill is he seemed to be approving of a compromise in the offing. And I don't want to be this jaded. I don't want to be this cynical, but if this omnibus thing is something that Chuck Schumer thinks he can live with at the outset, I'm inclined to be very suspicious.
Well, and I think your inclinations are right. Now, I have been leaning in very hard on a couple of fronts. Number one, that I think it would be a terrible, terrible mistake if they try to insert billions of dollars of bailout for insurance companies. There are a lot of folks in Washington pushing for multi-billion-dollar bailouts. In my view, Obamacare remains a disaster. It remains the biggest unfinished promise we have, and we need to be addressing the millions of Texans, millions of Americans who've seen their premiums skyrocket. The average family's premiums have gone up over $5,000 a year, and the answer is to address the problems of working men and women and lower those premiums through more competition, more choice, lower prices rather than the corporate welfare of giving billions of dollars to insurance companies. So I very much hope they don't put that in there, but we'll see how it plays forward.
Well, this is kind of economics 101, and let's spend an additional 60 seconds on it. If Obamacare did this to the insurance company marketplace, and I understand, I'm filled with empathy, the last thing you do is make that pain magically go away on the backs of taxpayers.
That's exactly right, especially since the insurance companies were at the table drafting Obamacare. The profits of the big insurance companies have doubled under Obamacare. They were perfectly complicit in the federal government mandating that consumers buy their product in a situation where their prices keep spiraling upward. That worked out very well for their profits, but lousy for working men and women. And so it can't be, it shouldn't be, Republicans in Washington who rush to the rescue of the insurance companies. We need to instead honor our promise, repeal Obamacare, and I continue working very hard to try to bring together 50 Republicans to do that. You know, another major issue that I've been pressing on the Omnibus is there's been a hard push in Washington to include in the Omnibus an internet sales tax, a tax that would apply to virtually every transaction on the internet. I think that would be catastrophically foolish. We should be keeping the internet free of taxes, free of regulations, not imposing billions of dollars of taxes, subjecting small mom-and-pop online retailers to the taxing authority and jurisdiction of over 9,600 taxing jurisdictions across the country. That would be a bad mistake. A lot of lobbyists in Washington are pushing for it, but I'm hopeful that the grassroots will keep that off of the omnibus.
Best to Heidi and the girls. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mark.